nachos, amigos, and welcome to Record Breakers, a music podcast where a group of friends gather together to share music with each other, an album at a time. It's like a little book club, but for music. I'm PD Rave, and here with me is my team, my squad, my crew, my quorum. We've got David.
Daniel Craig reference.
Yeah. We've got Drew.
I feel called out.
And we've got Brett.
You know, when I go for like a shtick, I go for a shtick. So I don't have my soprano saxophone and my Weird Al wig, but I'm not a Kenny G. I can be more like I want to be like Jesus. That photo. I'm looking at that photo for that single, and oh my God, Kenny G, man.
We will get to that in a moment.
Double exposure porn.
Exactly. We're here to talk about an album. We're here to talk about an album. And the provider of the album is none other than Drew. Drew, what have you got for us this week?
Well, this week I decided to bring something lesser known, I guess, something that isn't
something not necessarily SEO friendly.
Yeah. Something that if you go to the grocery store you won't hear.
Yeah, something it isn't all over the they won't be getting any they weren't nominated for the Grammys last year, to be fair, guys. This is
it's totally not a big deal, and I'm not mad. Don't tell the press I'm not mad.
Yeah.
But no, I brought the Weeknd's After Hours.
Yes. Let's talk about expectations. Brett, I'm curious, what expectations did you have coming into this album?
I knew the meme. I had heard none of the songs. I had no idea whatsoever. And I'm like, not the most plugged into, modern R&B pop music. But I do follow a lot of Canadian stuff. And somehow I still missed out on, last 10 years of this fella.
Yeah. David, what expectations did you have coming into this album?
Why would you even ask me that question?
Yes.
It's the Weeknd.
Yes.
It's like
Weeknd.
It's like Thriller, man.
It's the album that
I'm so glad you said that.
I don't know if we're comparing this to Thriller. I'm not here for that.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
As far as recognizability.
Okay.
Recognizability.
Because there ain't no Pretty Young thing. What's it like?
But yes, I was familiar with. I know. I at least know Blinding Lights from Sunny Kiss dancing to it with a bunch of other wrestlers on their I saw it on their Instagram. I imagine it was on their TikTok.
You might know Blinding Lights from all sports everywhere.
Yeah.
Petey, when you said what was the name of the person who danced to it?
Sunny Kiss.
Okay, when you say that, I'm like wrestler or Korean act. Like those
yes.
those were. I was sitting here like, what is he talking about?
I'm sure there's a Sunny Kiss in Korea.
Yes,
I was referring to a wrestler.
Now I'm googling that. Thanks.
Kpoppodcast.com.
A quarter of the time
canceled.
sometimes.
We're talking about. Yes, I had some expectations on like the style. I wasn't because I hadn't heard this album personally, but I know this hits, and I know their ubiquity. Let's just say that song has 2 billion listens on Spotify.
I don't even know what song you're talking about.
Yes.
Yes, you do.
No, I honestly don't know which one.
You're not that cut off from the rest of the planet.
I literally am.
Yes.
No,
we'll talk about
yes,
it.
You have.
We'll talk about it. Let's get down to it. Drew, how would you describe this album musically?
So, coming off of Starboy, this record is very different in a lot of ways and very the same in a lot of ways. it's a pop record, but in all the ways I want a pop record to exist. Since the way that the keys and sort of the mood is used, it's weird to talk about The Weeknd as a whole, because he's both producer and singer. Usually with a pop act, they're like usually just the singer. But the mix here, not only production wise, but the mix of genres, I think, is really something cool. There's a lot of pop acts these days that are mixing that like sort of synth poppy, like vaporwave tonality to things.
They borrowed Kavinsky's keyboard from 2013, and they're using it today.
And put it all through like a weird like VHS, but mixing in the R&B and sort of that vocal tonality, I think, is really smart. And mixing it with a tone that is also very morose and very sad at times, but also can be upbeat and pushing it forward is sort of neat as well.
Yes. Brett, how would you describe this album musically?
I mean, like, it's definitely in the pop genre. Like, this album was cut and mixed and everything to be radio friendly. There's some club cuts. This thing was made specifically for the wide audience and to win awards. It's one of those albums that is produced to that, like, for that effect. But it's vocals and a beat. Like, there's a lot of filtered effects going through. There's simple songs. There's a lot of kind of drony, mumbly lyric. Kind of. It's a little tighter and more enunciated than that. But there's some heavy effects on the vocals a lot of times. It's a very, very derivative. There are a lot of things that, like some progressions, like some. There are some, like, I wish I had the names for all of the different, like, oh, it's like the island beat song that people do, like the upstroke indie rock people did it like 15 years ago, where they were cribbing on the like 80s new romantic like synth pop, like, you know, synth stuff. But there's some others. There are different motifs that are like pieces grabbed from, you know, it's got that. But the thing that separates this from, like, you know, if you listen to like some of the like mid-career The Strokes, when they were like, oh well, we're not just gonna do indie, we're gonna do synthesizers, and they did all of the. They also listened to Kavinsky and were like, hey, we can hit that button and make it brown. But like this actually has bass hits. This is like club music. This has, like, for songs that aren't really very dancey, it definitely has the beat that makes the booty go. But yeah, it definitely sub frequencies that you don't normally hear on like anything other than like something that's a club R&B hit kind of thing. So it's mixed very weird for some of the things that it's pulling from, because, you know, like there are straight up like the synth sounds here it's the whole bag of tricks. You know, and on top of that, there's like tape warble at the same time of fake record popping, which is kind of weird. But yeah, lyrically, I did go through the lyric sheet. It's not really anything to write home about, but this is catchy pop music, or like this is the kind of music that you write to, like, make sure that it gets played at the great clips for the next 20 years.
Yeah. David, how would you describe this album musically?
It's an album that has a natural flow to it. I have seen this album described as what it sounds like after the party is over, or when you're coming down after a really wild night. The first half of the album really, really puts that on display with its big influence of what I'm calling kind of atmospheric, melancholy, dreamy pop music, where you can hear a little bit in the lyrics all across the album that it's a little bit more kind of existential than your typical pop music. And that's kind of what The Weeknd is. Like, yeah, he writes about debauchery, which I'm here for, but he's also written about what goes on in your head after the debauchery, which I'm also here for. And you get that on this album, especially in the first 60% of the album. And when it hits that turning point, that's kind of where it picks up and you start getting your second win and you're ready to go back into it.
Yeah, it is about being The Weeknd. It's about being this famous R&B artist with a high-profile lifestyle and the ups and the downs of it. Those are the themes elements that...
And he does not run from the downs.
Yeah, and he doesn't run from the downs. And it's all that. It does it well, and it does it cohesively to with a cohesive like a narrative tone. It all kind of flows together. It's well done. It's well made. It is a pop record fundamentally, but it does it well. It does it with really good. It does it with really good quality. And
it's a pop album, but it's not that kind of pop album.
Yeah. It has a lot of fun parts
bop.
of it. Yeah. It is, definitely enough for it.
Is there kids bop a weekend the week? I need to know.
I don't want to know. And
there totally is. Oh God, I don't want to know this.
Yeah,
I
told you.
I'm sorry, the world.
I forgot to do that. The record is really solid, and there's a reason why it's praised as much as it is. It is, like I said, a pop record, so obviously that's where the popularity comes. But with that popularity, it's also there's a tightness and there's a depth to it, and it incorporates those 80s elements, but it's one of those that's the one.
That's the one.
And because he does things, because he has the resources, everything is just that little bit more authentic. It's got the horns there, but good, like actual horns. And
there's some fake horns too that are pretty good.
Yeah, and
there's some MIDI horns that I'm a big fan of.
There's auto tuning, but for thematic effect.
Were you about to say aesthetic?
Yeah. Well, I was going to say for
anymore.
specifically.
I already finished my drink.
No. I guess for aesthetic, but more specifically for thematic effect, and for tonal effect, and for what the character that is going through it at the moment, and it is used well. Things are interconnected, but it doesn't lose highlights. Things are interconnected and they don't feel disjointed in any part of it, but you don't get lost in going from song to song. You just don't feel, nothing feels out of place, but in a good, and it does well, and it's also just solid. But yeah, let's talk about these key tracks. Drew, what would be some of the key tracks to zero in on?
Well, Alone Again. The way it eases through that sort of, like I was saying, that like sort of melancholy, taking a full 2 minutes before beat drops, and just letting the synth sort of play, I think is really smart. and really well done. And it didn't make you feel. Sometimes when there's a beat drop moment in a song, you feel cheated when it lasts, when it's that long before it happens. I didn't in this, for better or worse. Scared to Live. The best I could come up with is the tone here is the musical equivalent of when a VHS tape just starts to go bad. It's that tone. Yeah, it's that sound from all of your home movies from like '93. Heartless. It's R&B vocals over a hip hop beat. It works. I mean, if R. Kelly hadn't fucked up, that man would have still been making money off of this shit forever. And Blinding Lights. It's a hit song. Like Petey said, there is more plays on this song than I think anything we've reviewed on Record Breakers to date on Spotify. The number, I didn't know it read that large in Spotify's like plays, which was surprising to me.
Billions.
It's great. It's danceable. It's got a groove. It's fun. Watching The Weeknd run through lights during the Super Bowl while singing this song with like the mirrors is a visual that like I can watch over and over and over again. Like that alone made me want to go see him live one time. And talking to somebody who's done it, it's apparently a good time. So
Mute. Petey's muted.
Sorry, I was muted myself for a second. Brett, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
Scared to Live. It has a bit of Tears in Heaven in the hook. It's the literal progression. It is Tears in Heaven for a little bit. Which everybody should go look today. Eric Clapton is the person of the internet. Those happened at the same time, coincidentally. Blinding Lights. The borrowed synthwave plug-in pack that people love and use. It's a thing. I remember like 5 years ago, Jeff Gersman on the Giant Bombcast talking about, hey, somebody got the plug-in, so they got the Kavinsky kit, so they can go bow, bow, bow. But this is like a little like, it's got some of like the new romantic stuff, and like it's mixing motifs, and it does work. But it is those pieces that you are very familiar with from popular music of the last 5 years. In Your Eyes, The Light, The Heat, Your Eyes, I Am Complete, Your Eyes. Let me hold my boombox above my head.
In your ass.
In your ass. Yeah. But no, this is a completely different like synth pop motif. But also one that is used by others, which I wish I had names for. But this was the one that was more used by indie bands, and I remember like specifically like the Strokes used that motif for. I was like, why are they? That's not what. I thought the lo-fi, but yeah, I will also bring that up again because also Kenny G. Kenny G. He shows up. Kenny G. Kenny G. If you need a guy from like yeah. That is stunt casting in the musical world.
Yes.
And like all they needed was a Michael Bolton like solo in the middle of it where he just belts it out, like get all the But Save Your Tears. If you would have just played that for a little while, I would have expected to hear Julia Casablancas come in and like in a blown out microphone with an upstrokey guitar. And like a simple but effective guitar solo. But no, it's not. It's very much like this is like when you get a box of Lego and you're like, no, I'm gonna use these pieces and do something else. Like there are a bunch of songs where I can be like, oh hey, this drew from this to make what it is. But like it's hard to describe sounds and waves, synth wave feels and stuff. I think we're at the like probably at the end of the lifespan of mid to late 80s retro callbacks. Like it's been almost a decade of this, but like I still haven't found a good way to describe the way that they write, because it is very weird, like, to have the bass hits, like the tones that are so low that they are not musical, they are to be felt through subwoofers, while also still having the like keyboard tone from a Tears for Fears song, or like, you know, the vocal effects from, like, you know, the New Order. Like, it's kind of strange. So like, I could pick apart other songs, but those are the ones that I caught, and like completely not knowing what the actual hits were. These were the ones that are like, okay, these are probably the radio hits. But then I go to the Wikipedia page, and every single track almost is hyperlinked. Yeah. So I don't know how. So I yeah.
You saw the number of plays Blinding Lights has.
I learned. I did not know. I did not see, because I play desktop.
Yeah. It's there, but yeah, it's the mega hit. It's the ultra hit. It's the ultra combo of the album. Yeah, and if you kind of like, the Blinding Light is just the ultra combo of the album, and for a reason. It's just like that callback sound of being. And people have pointed out it does have a similarity to like a dark, like a Silent Hill dark version of Aha's Take On Me. Like, you know, like it's an interesting kind of way to look at it. If I were to like highlight an interesting chunk of the album, I would say, like, specifically that those the three Metro Booming tracks as like a whole just make a nice, interesting section, just, you know, starting from Snow Child and going to like Escape from LA, and then following it up with a Heartless, which I think I'm looking, yeah,
that is how that goes.
That's I'm talking about. Oh wait, no, I'll include Snow Child, though I wasn't thinking of that one, but Escape from LA, Heartless, and Faith, the three Metro Booming tracks. Especially with how much like they incorporate the decadence with like the trap sounds, again with, of course, Metro Boomin, and even following it up with like something like Faith, it fits well as like just a little story in of its own. But yeah, it Hardest to Love caught me off guard by throwing in the drum and bass, that just kind of caught me off guard. In Your Eyes, you remember that diphthong, In Your Eyes.
I see the doorway.
I liked the authentic churches. The legit horns on there. They sounded like legit 80s horns, and they were performed fantastically. Yeah, it just, those were the songs that I could like type down and write notes out, but a lot of them, there are a lot of highlights that kind of like come in every in a bunch of different places. But let's bring it back around the horn.
Petey,
what's up?
I didn't get to say my tracks.
Oh yeah, David, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
Although maybe you should skip me, since I totally glossed over your expectations part. So go ahead. I'll just say, Blinding Lights came out in 2019. I'm not tired of it yet. Let's not downplay that song, guys.
It's a great song.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go ahead and say it. That song is an all-timer. It's an all-time pop song.
When I heard it, I was like, I plan on hearing this at baseball games for the next 20 years. But I don't.
And Brett, I don't mind.
I mean, I hear a lot of terrible things at baseball games, let me tell you. So, like, this is probably way better than
I really feel like
everybody clap your hands.
This one's going to be an all-timer. It really is.
Like cha-cha sliding my way through life. I think that this is a higher quality song than but yeah.
Pop songs like Blinding Lights do not come along often, and it shouldn't be downplayed.
Oh, I guarantee the next time I go and sit at a Jays game at the Dome, I'm gonna hear that song. Like that's how that works.
I
Like,
hope they
I'll
play
look
that
up
when I go to
at the
Comerica
CN
next.
Tower, and I'll be like, hey, Drake's
I
picture
hope
of
I
him.
hear it.
That album cover is
Also,
dumb. And also,
not-
The Weeknd.
I don't want to belittle the fact. In my opinion, this motherfucker could have done that twice.
Yeah.
Because Can't Feel My Face.
Yeah, Can't Feel My Face.
Like, put in there. Like, this dude has done that twice.
And
Back
it's
to
gonna
back.
that's gonna come into my conclusive thoughts when we get to that.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, let's bring it back around to hard talk about some conclusive thoughts.
The long saxophone horn that I'm gonna play with my curly long hair when I'm not golfing, because I'm Kenny G.
Brett, what would be your conclusion on this album as a whole?
I do like that Alice Cooper says that he's the second best musician golfer because Kenny G kicks his ass. I think that's what Alice Cooper says. Yeah,
What?
Kenny G's a serious golfer. Yeah, you know Alice Cooper's a serious golfer too. He's one of those guys. But so I found this fairly enjoyable as background music. Didn't really. It's it kind of sits there in the background, kind of mumbles a little bit, doesn't really get in the way. It's not mixed that way. And because it's like a very derivative album, it's very like I'm not trying to be super reductive here, but there are a lot of things that are borrowed here. There was not a lot of new discoveries in this album. It was a good way of putting these pieces together into making things with the tools that they chose to use. But there's nothing that's necessarily new. It's more like this is how they shuffled the tools to make a modern pop and R&B album. Which is cool because this is how modern pop and R&B is, and it's way cooler than what it has been in the past. It was produced to be widely agreeable and to get play on, contemporary radio and like clubs and, remixes and stuff. And I didn't find it deep, or like as anything especially like impressive about it. Other than, they spent a lot of money on this album. They made a good one of these. I would imagine that, there was a heavy hand in like figuring out how they wanted to present this album to the public because, it didn't get a Grammy nomination and they're totally not mad about it. But
yeah, you know what? Yeah, the Grammys don't deserve The Weeknd.
And the trophies aren't why you make art.
Exactly. David, what would be your conclusion on this album as a whole?
I appreciate The Weeknd as a character, as a pop star celebrity who
I like the meme.
Who is a pop star celebrity who is a bit debaucherous. As someone who is occasionally a bit debaucherous, I can respect that.
Wait, hold on. Are you almost drunk?
No, I'm starting to come down a little bit, actually.
Oh, okay. I just okay. Mild debauchery tonight.
Mild. I feel like
it's a high green, low yellow.
Yeah, it was probably like mostly green. I was really more at like a 2 or a 3. I wasn't really even close.
You're the weekday.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a school night.
Without the A.
Yeah.
Week D.
I feel like this album was good, and I thought the second half of the album was outstanding. And I feel like it really made me a believer in The Weeknd because he's had some mega smash hits. And I feel like the first half of the album wasn't bad. The moody dream pop that's kind of fucked up, that has a little bit of regret of the debauchery, I connect with that. I thought that was really good. But the second half is where it really started to click for me, when you could tell that there was a pretty conscious effort to get the party going again. And the entire album as a complete piece flowed really well. It was clearly done with effort and with intent, and I think it worked. It worked really well. The entire album as a whole, I thought was good, pretty good. But I think The Weeknd's next album will be that album that everyone talks about forever. I'm a believer. I believe in the guy. I think his next album is going to be the one that just kind of breaks everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's Thriller.
Yes.
Kinda, maybe, yeah.
You never know.
I think so.
Yeah. I think this is a very good. This is like Brett has said, a very good one of those. This is a very good example of. I think there is a nice creativity in the R&B, modern R&B sphere.
Absolutely.
That I'm really enjoying, and I think people should appreciate. There's a bunch of really great artists creating music in the mainstream that is cool, creative, engaging. That is. I don't know.
It should not be downplayed just because it's mainstream.
Exactly.
I mean, it's pop music. It's made pop music is this. It's made to be popular.
And I am a big proponent in that there is, even if it is something that's mainstream, there's still a ton of quality there, and it's still a ton of fun to be had. I mean, I hosted a K-pop podcast for like several years.
Why am I the one plugging your K-pop podcast more than you?
I dislike pop music more than any of you guys, and this is amazing for one of these.
That show's on hiatus. I don't even know I'm gonna go back. But I mean, y'all can
it's a tough time when you were the OG K-pop podcast.
Yeah, but there's a ton of great things happening, and I think I'm going. This is reminding me that that I have been keeping an eye on a lot of like modern R&B and hip hop artists that are doing really cool stuff that I've been meaning to bring on the show, especially female artists that I'm keen on. And it just is the growth of music, you know. Modern music right now is really good. Like on balance, yes, there's a bottom and it's very low, but that's always been the case, and maybe it's a little lower now just because like the democratization of music, but there's so much good music out there even in the mainstream, and I think this is an example of that. This is a solid pop record that's just fantastic.
Drew, who's that young lady that does Paramore about as good as Paramore did? What's that lady?
Olivia Rodrigo.
Yeah. Like there's effort being put out there.
Yes, and it's all effort, creativity, and a lot of really good fun things being done out there. Creative freedom. Yeah. Drew, last but not least, what will be your conclusion on this album as a whole?
It's something where I don't always listen to pop music. I'm not listening to Hot 101 over here in Ohio. But
yes, that Ohio radio station.
Hot 101. But it's every once in a while something catches my ear where I'm like, oh, okay, this I can get behind. The Weeknd of those times, or is one of those people. I shouldn't say one of those times. The Weeknd as a time period, I can definitely get behind. But as an artist, I think that he's operating in a very interesting space right now. It's something where when I think of pop, I think of the pop music when I was growing up, which was controlled by somebody else and people were doing it. Whereas now it's like he's the producer, he's making the beats, he's writing the songs. Somebody else isn't writing them.
Introduce you to Kenneth Babyface. What is
Edmonds.
Edmonds, yes. He's a local here. We have a road named after him.
He is.
And
And he
I guess
does
what
have
I'm saying is-
collaborators, but he's still the
Yeah.
creative core.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
it's the thing of like,
It's not Tiffany.
and I'm not saying it's on this level yet, but it's if pop music is going back towards like the Elton John era of pop music, where like
Oh no, that was rock and roll, baby. The Crocodile Rock is in the name.
Yeah.
But if it's going back to like the artist having it be their art, I think that's overall a good thing, and it's fun to listen to.
I need to bring Elton John now. Like I'll wear a
I'm good with
Donald
Elton
Duck
John.
costume, and
Yeah.
we'll. Well, I guess that's why they call it the blues.
Well, I guess that's why they call it +2.
Yes.
I'll never
shout
be
out
mad
to
at Elton.
The party.
Yes.
I will listen to
Shout
Elton
out
John
to
tomorrow.
long
The
swords and
bitch
long
is
bows.
back.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, those are our thoughts on the weekend.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's our thoughts.
Yes, those are our thoughts on the weekends after hours. Go check it out. It's on our Spotify playlist. But well, wait,
You've already checked it out. Come on, lady.
I
You've
mean,
already
or
checked it
not.
out.
And you're not gonna like it, but who cares?
Who knows?
Unless you're on the planet Mars in a cave with your eyes shut and your
Or
fingers
like
in your
there's
ears.
in 20 years there are some some neo hipsters that are into listening to podcasts from like this era, and they come back to us and they're like, oh, we need to have the best taste of and so they us tastemakers will next generation will love us.
Yes. But yeah, now we get to the main event of the evening, the moment we've all been waiting for. Our haiku reviews. We sum it all up in poetic form. We do our fun
Grab
bit
your
that we do
Canadian dinner
forever.
jacket.
Exactly. Let's get down to the nitty gritty. Haiku numero uno. Brett, what is your haiku?
Very successful, though I think it's not for me, but that's all right, folks.
Yes. David, what is your haiku?
One mega smash hit. Some moody electropop. Not a bad album.
You know, use of mega in haiku.
Yes.
Like, that's a good 2-syllable filler.
Exactly.
Mega.
Spittin'.
Mega. Or super. My haiku.
Really.
Yes. A complete project with cohesive narrative more than its hits. Last but not least, Drew, what is your haiku?
Canadian pop that hits multiple levels. Lovely music.
Carly Rae Jepsen? Yeah. We enjoyed.
Oh
Canadian
man, Carly
pop.
Rae Jepsen's good.
Yeah.
This-
Thank you to
And-
Giggle Loop for bringing us emotion back in the day. That was a fantastic album.
So next week
Fine
is
Canadian pop.
Celine Dion.
Yes.
Let's do it. Do it.
Isn't she like? She's
Yes.
not gonna come on.
No.
We've but our guest next week will be Celine Dion. She's
Yes.
bringing another
Yes.
Chromeo album.
Yes, next week on Pause. Next week on but yes, those are thoughts on the weekends after hours. So you can find it on our Spotify playlist on both of them. Check them out in the show notes. We've got a playlist with the episodes slotted in and one without. So that you can
That's the
binge.
weirdest playlist ever, going straight from Weird Al Yankovic to The Weeknd.
Exactly. But similar hair.
Yeah.
Really-
Like Kenny G's got Weird Al hair too. Like
Exactly.
there's a lot of hair going on.
Remember
Um,
that stuff I said about the 80s not being great?
I don't know.
yes.
Like we've been living in the 80s for a decade.
Yes. But yeah,
Remember that stuff about me trying to pull everybody out of the 70s and 80s so much?
yes.
Hey man, I brought the weekend. I don't know.
Yes. But yeah, on our Spotify playlist would be next week's record, and it is my choice. It is one of Miami New Times artists to watch for in 2021. Miami artists to watch for in 2021 in particular. We're going to be talking about the Smoogies and their album Planet Smoogies.
The Smoogies?
Yes, the Smoogies and their album Planet Smoogies.
Give me a genre here.
We're getting
don't.
Yes,
Leave it open ended.
we're getting some great Miami music, and I'm looking forward to everybody's thoughts.
Killing me softly with.
But look forward to that next week. But that'll be next week, and this is this week, and you can of course find us all over the internet.
I can't wait for the comments in the YouTube for the Smoogies. They're gonna be like, "Why isn't this the album?"
Yes. You can of course find us all over the internet.
That's
David
the other
is
black guy, people.
Yes. David is at Call Me DJM. Brett is at HeyBDBirdBird, HIBBITYBIBBARD. Drew is at Xtrusive for X. I'm at PD Rave. The show is at 4 Record Breakers. That's the number 4 Record Breakers. RecordBreakersPodcast.com. RecordBreakersPodcast@gmail.com. Rebelli.net for this and other shows. Rebelli TV on YouTube and on Twitch. Follow us along at Twitch. We have a great schedule of streams every week, depending on how we're feeling, but we try to stream at least 4 times a week. We do D&D on Tuesdays, Record Breakers, our music podcast, on Wednesdays, Space Trucking on Thursdays. I do our PD Plays Fridays, where I play through like a story-based game, narrative game. Now I'm playing through Mass Effect Legendary Edition. I might do something else this Friday because I might be participating in a thing on Friday, but look out for that. But otherwise, there might be more Mass Effect. But look out for that schedule. I have it posted. I have it all set up in the Twitch place. I will try to remember to post it on Twitter as well and things like that. But yeah, follow things, like, share, subscribe, do all the calls to action. Until next time, hasta los huevos.
Toodaloo.
I'm seeing pictures of these people playing live. I'm going to assume their bass player is great because it's black dude with the white dude playing bass. And if he's that good to get that much respect, I'm going to assume he's great.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.